Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Today we have with us a wealth strategy expert, Todd Polke. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Alicia. Super excited to be here on this morning over in Australia.
It is 2 p.m. here for me, 7 a.m. there for you.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. So you work with my people, you work with business owners, you work with entrepreneurs, and you really are helping them to create systems for wealth. Like we're talking real wealth, not just cash flow, not just generating more money in their businesses. So I'd love for you to start by sharing with our listeners what it is that you do.
Yeah, 100%. I'll take a step back in that. And here's one of the things that I see a lot of business owners do. And, I've been in business for around probably 15, 16 years now. I've worked with thousands of business owners over the years. And entrepreneurs and business owners, we're a bit of a crazy breed, right? And we put everything into our business 100%, and we go at it and we take bigger risks, and we work longer hours and all those different things that as business owners, we tend to do just because it's what we love. But here's one of the challenges that I see, that so many business owners, they put everything into their business and it becomes this black hole. It becomes a black hole of their time, of their money, of their energy, their life force, and they literally give everything to it. And what makes me incredibly sad is that so many business owners at the end of it, they don't have much left over for themselves. And so they've shoved everything into business, but they really haven't focused on building their personal wealth. So when I work with kind of high performers, entrepreneurs, business owners, what we really focus on doing, well, how do we take this asset called our cash flow from the ATM machine, which is a business, and how do we transform that into true wealth? And when I'm talking about true wealth, I'm talking about ensuring that you have the time freedom, the location freedom, the lifestyle freedom that you want to be able to have, and that you can actually build and leave the legacy that you want to be able to have on the planet. And so it's really fundamentally all about, let's zoom out, see the bigger picture, and how do we connect all the dots to transform your business profits into personal wealth?
All right. So you covered a lot there in a really short period of time.
Sure thing. Yeah.
But it's so important that we're having this conversation, because I know that a lot of business owners, even seasoned business owners, are still on the cash hamster wheel.
Yeah.
They are not properly investing in themselves. They're not utilizing the surplus of cash that's coming in to create future wealth for themselves and their family.
Yeah.
When people come to you, what are you seeing? Like, what's the common themes that you're seeing with your clients?
Yeah, for sure. Here's what I see very often, as entrepreneurs, business owners, there's reasons we go into business, right? Number one is that often we're very unemployable. I know I'm completely unemployable. There's no possible way, right? We love to be in control of our destiny and of our future. And we want to grow something that matters, and we want to create some freedom in our life. Now, I don't know, Alicia, you might be able to add some with all the things you do. Are there any others that you've seen other than those reasons why a lot of people go into business?
I think those are the keys, right? Those are the core ones. People want to be their own boss. That's usually when they take the plunge, usually with no business experience.
Correct.
They transition from being the bad employee to saying a big F you to, to the man. And then
that's a beautiful moment. Yeah.
Right? And then, just jump right in and learn as you go, this kind of the school of hard knocks. Right. And it's funny because you see these posts all over social media about, the entrepreneur is the person who will work, 60 hours a week to avoid 40 hours a week. And it's so
totally
true.
Exactly. And that's the point. Like, I had a job for, I don't know, maybe about a year, and that was about it. And in my entire life. But we go into this space and then we work 60 hours to avoid the 40 hours. But then what happens is a lot of people become slaves to the business. And that's what I see happen a lot. You know, people have been in business for a period of time and they are stuck in the business and they're working lots and lots of hours. They have the stress of potential staffing, of overheads, of the costs associated to it. They really put everything into their business to try and grow it and scale it and things like that. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it's not. It feels like this struggle. And often they get to me and they're frustrated and they go, this isn't why I went into business. I thought this was about more. Where's my freedom that I was promised? Where is the cash flow and the lifestyle and the all those things that I was promised? Where is my exit strategy? And so they get to me and they're going, do you know what? I'm missing something. There's got to be a better way, right? And how do I actually break free of this pattern of, just staying stuck, trapped in this business?
We talked a little bit before we started recording about that mindset shift that people have to go through. If we really break it down, when a business owner has been hustling for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, their mindset is the next dollar or the next contract or the next this or the next that, and making payroll and maybe expansion. But it rarely is about how do I take what I've created and now have that start to support me.
Totally.
So can you talk a little bit about that mindset shift that you oftentimes have to guide your clients through so they can start thinking like the wealthy entrepreneur as opposed to just maybe the successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, great distinction. And I think it's where we have to redefine what running a business, what an entrepreneur is, right? And so when people say running a business or entrepreneur, they're thinking just their business interests. That's it. But they're not being an entrepreneur in their life, right? And so they might take the risks and do the elements here and create here and expand in their business. But how are they taking care of the rest of the components of their life? And what are they actually focusing on there? Because it can be a bit of a black hole over here and we kind of get stuck, right? Because it can take everything. But when we start thinking about, well, okay, we do have a business that we run, but then we also have a personal wealth business. And how are we taking care of our personal wealth business? For most people, they don't. It's a very reactive process where they only get to it when there's a bill to pay, when it's tax time, when there's emergency, or when it's too bloody late, right? And that's when most people tend to get to their money and they're not in control of it. They're very reactive associated to it. And they only get to it when it's convenient to them. And it's a horrible, horrible trap, because if you don't put attention and intention on this element in your life, then it obviously stays stagnant or literally falls away. And so when we're talking about that kind of mindset shift, one of the things that I get a lot of my business owners to be really real about is what type of business are they running? Is it actually an asset or is it an ATM? Because that's two very, very different things. A lot of people go into business with this idea that I'm going to have this big sellout opportunity and I'm going to put everything into the business, and in 5 years, 10 years time, I'm going to make my squillions and I'm going to be good. Now, the statistics around that is actually incredibly minimal, right? As we know, most businesses owners are out of business within 5 years, but those that actually create the big sellout is quite rare. One of my clients, Tony, he was in this space and he's 60 years old now. He'd been in business for 40 years. He had this idea that he was going to have this big sellout, but when it came push to shove, he was going to get probably about 700,000 for his business. And that was about it after 40 years of being in business. And all of a sudden, after some conversations, he realized that his business, yes, he'll get some money, but his business is actually an ATM. So I think you've got to be really real and really honest around what type of business you're running, and you've got to treat it accordingly. And so an ATM business, it's a cash flow machine that you just take the cash flow and you feed it into your personal wealth. For business owners that do have a system that they're actually building, if you're putting all your eggs in that one basket, then it's incredibly risky. So we've got to focus on running those two separate businesses. And so probably one of the biggest mindset shifts that I would say is that you have to treat your personal wealth like a business as well, right? So the same attention and intention you put on this business, you've got to come to your personal wealth and go, how do I transform this cash flow machine into personal wealth, which is going to grow, and treat it like a business like you do other areas of your life?
The way I look at it is that's an exciting proposition. But I know that sometimes you have to help people to really get it in their own way, in their own mind, in order for them to feel that same excitement. Because a lot of people, without the clarity around why that is a good idea, think to themselves, oh man, that's just more stuff I have to do. And I'm already burnt out. I'm already spread too thin. But if you take a few steps back and you think to yourself, where do I want to be in 5, 10 years? Where do I want to be in 20 years? If I stay on this current trajectory, is that going to get me there? Well, that's that reality check. And now you have to say, wait a second, why did I get in business? Well, I wanted that freedom. I wanted the lifestyle. I wanted the legacy. I wanted to leave something for my children, my grandchildren, whatever the case may be. Shit, I just want to be able to, sit on the beach and, relax. Maybe, and as entrepreneurs, most of us will probably never really be able to retire, right? But certainly it would be, it would be probably nice for most people to have the luxury of enjoying a lot of playtime and a lot less work time. So when people start to get it, what does that look like then? How are you helping them to create the strategy so that they can have that in the future?
Yeah, and what you said there is really important. You mentioned before that so many business owners just focusing on, well, the next payroll or the next this or the next that, and they're stuck in the business and their mind is in the business and thinking about it all the time. And because there's so many pressures and so many different things coming from all angles, it's hard to kind of lift your head above that waterline sometimes, so to speak, to see beyond it. And so one of the biggest things, as you mentioned, is all about how do we stop and how do we kind of zoom out for a moment and realign ourselves to what was our why? What was our reason that we chose to go into business in the first place? And what did we want to create? And yes, what we've been doing has gotten us to this point in our life now, but in 5 years' time, how do we want that to be different, right? And that's where it all starts from. So whenever I start working with any client on strategy, the first thing we want to get very clear on is, what does this look like? Like we got to set our pillars up, so we got to understand, well, what is the outcome that we want to create? And it's got nothing to do with money, right? Money is just a tool of choice. That's all it is. What is the lifestyle and the freedom and the legacy and all those choices I want to be able to have? And we tier it, right? There's, well, how much do we need to cover our needs? So just so we get our time back, so we're not tied to a business or a job just to cover our basic living expenses. Then we have our wants, which is the zone of choice. Then we have our dreams, which is living the lifestyle we want. And then we have our legacy. And we actually have 4 different, what I call financial freedom figures. When we can understand what those figures actually are, we now have a tangible, real outcome that we can start building a portfolio towards. Then we reverse engineer it. Well, what kind of portfolio do we need to create? Earning X amount of yield, which is going to create this amount of cash flow, which is going to deliver this type of outcome that we want. And so now we have an understanding of the portfolio we need to build. And then we can reverse engineer and come all back to the beginning again. Well, where are we right now? What's the first pillar? Like, what's the starting point? What's our cash flow look like? What are our assets look like? How much equity do we have? What's our servicing look like? Let's get clear on your numbers, because otherwise we're just kind of running blind. And now we have our pillars, and it's kind of like 2 big red crosses on a map. And we've got our start point, we've got our finish point. And then strategy is what bridges that gap in between. How can we rework everything that we've created in our life and we have right now? How can we get it working more effectively and more efficiently for us? And how can we create a plan where every single element in our portfolio serves a specific purpose, which is helping us take the next step and the next step and the next step on, this 5 phase of your wealth creation journey towards this outcome that we want to create. So you said it perfectly. We got to stop. We got to zoom out, and we got to set our pillars back in place and see the bigger picture rather than just being stuck in the weeds all the time. And then we start mapping that strategy step by step. We become intentional. And the other thing you said before is that business owners are worried about taking a lot of time. Wealth creation doesn't have to take a lot of time. It's a system. If you follow the system, you can get the result, right? It's all about effective time. And this is why the importance of actually working with the team. So you can apply the principle of leverage. So while you're busy in everything you're doing in life and work and business and all those things, your wealth is also growing in the background. And that's really, really critical.
When you are looking at somebody's financial stuff,
Yeah.
do you see that it makes people uncomfortable?
100%. Well, so, and like, especially in Australia, right? Like in the US, a lot of my US clients are far more open about talking about money and about wealth and about bigger dreams. In Australia, like, also everyone's like, the level of rubbish they have around money and the fear they have around money and around the shame they have around money is really quite extreme. And it's global, but I find it really, really severe in Australia. And so people get very, very uncomfortable, right? Talking about money. It's a source of shame. It's a source of guilt. It's a source of pain. It is a source of pressure. I find a lot of high performers, business owners, it's an area of disappointment in their life because they know how to make money, and they have high standards for themselves, but this area isn't kind of matching up to the standards of the rest they have in their life. And so, yeah, it's a big pain point for a lot of people.
I am so glad that you shared that because this has been a big project of mine as of late. And I've worked with entrepreneurs for a very long time now. And a lot of my clients are very successful individuals.
Yeah.
And there is this environment that usually I have to create for people right from the get-go, a very safe, confidential space. It's the same as if you were struggling with something in your marriage. Maybe you had like ED or something, something where there's just a lot of like shame around it. And you are not going to reach out for the help that you need unless you really feel safe doing so. It has to be that confidential, safe place where people can start to open up and say, listen, I've been dealing with this money shame for my entire life, my entire adult life, the past 20, 30 years that I've been in business. A lot of times people will come to me and they'll pretend, because they've been really good at convincing themselves that it's not an issue, that they're not ashamed, they're doing just fine, when secretly inside, and they'll say something like, money is not, that important to me.
Yeah, sure.
And then deeper in the conversation, it comes out that really the main stressor in their life is because they're not where they want to be financially.
Yeah.
And so actually I'm doing a program right now called the Money Mindset Intensive, where that's exactly what we're working on, is all of the subconscious stuff, because we're all programmed. And I've worked with clients in Australia. Most of my clients are in the United States. I've had many in the UK and all over the world. It is everywhere.
Yeah.
The social, societal, the spiritual, the religious, the familial conditioning, it just really messes people up around this topic. And that's why I was curious, when people come to you, when they come to me, they can use some other excuse. They can say, oh, I'm struggling with, communication with my employees or whatever it is. I need to work on my mindset to achieve my next level goal, without saying, here's my financials, which is just like kind of rubbing up against an open wound.
Yeah.
So when you're working with your clients, How do you address that?
Wealth building needs to become as normal in people's minds as paying a bill or paying a mortgage. And so I also find that if I make too big a deal about it, that it becomes this thing that's up on a pedestal. And I want to normalize money. I want to normalize investing. I want to normalize wealth building as if it's the same as you go to the petrol station to fill up your car. And so because you touched on the societal programming and things like that, because like reality is in life, we're never taught anything about money or wealth or investing in any type of formal education system, simply because the government doesn't want us to be financially free. They want good boys and girls to do what they're told and pay their taxes, functioning cogs, the economic wheel of society, right? And so this is why money is made to be this such topic that you don't talk about, right? And this topic which is we're not taught about, and this topic which especially in families and things like that, it's the source of a lot of fighting and things like that. And so it becomes this really taboo type of thing. And we want to normalize that. And so whenever I start working with a client, to me, I'm straight into it. And the reason I'm straight into it, I don't want to tiptoe around it, because I don't want it to feel like it's this thing that we don't talk about. I want to make it feel that this is something normal we should be having conversations around, and it's totally safe and open to be able to have those conversations, right? Because if it's not that, then what they'll do, well, I might have a conversation, but then they go back into their old, into their own environment, their own situation, and then it's this hidden scenario again. So wealth building is a habit, and the more that we can bring it into day-to-day life, the better. And so we want to start installing micro habits step by step along the way to actually normalize money and normalize investing and normalize wealth building the same it is as paying a mortgage, right? I think it's absolutely essential.
That's awesome. That's really embracing how the mind works and using it to your advantage. Anytime something is new to someone, there's that awkward period. I kind of joke for women, sometimes it's wearing lipstick, or if they've been a tomboy their whole life, it might be wearing a dress out in public. For men, it might be putting on a suit. There's any number of different things, but if you've been a certain way, or you have a certain image of yourself, and now you're starting to break that mold, the mind is like, whoa, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, completely.
And you feel awkward, you feel uncomfortable, but the more that you do it, the more it starts to feel normal.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you've really embraced it. And now you can, wear the dress, you can wear the suit, and the energy, the confidence that you exude is totally different than when you first started.
Yeah. I always say to my clients that you'll never out earn yourself. And I think that's really, really key because, like, as you said, I always remember Tony Robbins saying this, is that you'll do whatever you can to stay consistent with who you believe you are, right? And we wrap so much around our identity around money. And this is just because we've been living this way for X period of time. And we create this identity around this is who we are in this space of our life. And we kind of, I call it the money lens, right? Where you have these experiences, you have this programming, you have these habits, you have all these things. And it kind of creates this set of lenses through which you're viewing the world of money and receiving the world of money in and around your life. And you wrap your identity around that. And it's all well and good people going, I see there's a lot of people coming in and go, oh, they have a spark of inspiration. They go, yes, I'm going to make $1 squillion overnight. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But it's so far away from their current reality that subconsciously it's just sitting there going, bullshit. That's not going to happen, right? And then they go in this self-sabotage style pattern, which they run. I know we were talking about this earlier, and they run this self-sabotage pattern. And ultimately, their external reality comes back to reflect their internal environment. And so what we've always got to focus on doing is starting to understand if we want to create a new level of result, right? Then we've got to start shifting who we actually are. So who do we need to become in order to create this new level of result, right? In order to become that, what are the new habits that we need to start implementing into our life that we can start shifting bit by bit? Because wealth isn't built on the one big, crazy, outrageous thing you do. It's built based on the small, seemingly insignificant things that we do on a consistent basis. And these things stack up and stack up and stack up into the avalanche in this thing called wealth and success. It's just a habit. And the most beautiful part about that is that everybody can do it. It's about the small stuff.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I love that. And so many people, that self-sabotage, right? So they think to themselves, oh, just investing a little bit here, what good is that going to do? A little bit there, what good is that going to do? And when you've put it off, those little bits over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, guess what? That compounds. That's huge. And then you look back in retrospect and you're like, what the frick did I do to myself?
Yeah. And it compounds. And when you're saying it compounds, it compounds a lot of things, right? Because those little bits over time, they can compound and grow really big. But it's also when you're taking those consistent actions, your confidence compounds, your awareness compounds, your financial intelligence compounds, your comfort factor with money compounds. And so the compounding effect nature of taking those small steps on a consistent basis, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. That compound nature is extraordinary. But also not doing it also has a compounding effect, because we don't get the results. We feel disappointed in ourselves, and that compounds. Money becomes more of a taboo topic because we keep putting it up. We compound the habit of waiting and making excuses for ourselves. And so we compound completely the other way as well. And so I think that compound nature of action and inaction is critical.
Absolutely. With money, in business, in all areas of life.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, 100%.
So now I want to ask you about your own mindset journey. So you are a business owner. Yep. And you've been doing this for a while now, but I know that all of us have our own internal stuff that we have to break through. Can you share with us something about your own personal journey as a business owner? Maybe something within your own mindset that you had to overcome to get to where you are today?
Yeah, 100%. There's probably two key lessons that I'm going to share, which really impacted me in a big way. And there's some stuff I really had to let go of and get over. I started out investing at quite a young age. I was 19 when I bought my first property, and that kind of started a kind of love affair of investing since then. So that's been about 18 odd years now. But when I started out, my whole rule of creating success, and this is business, but it's any area of life, was simply that the harder I work, the more successful I'll become, right? And that was my rule of creating success. And so I used to take pride. It was like a badge of honor of outworking everybody else. And, working 15, 16-hour days and burning myself out and, just going in and doing all those things. And that used to be a badge of honor to me, because my whole thing, all I have to do is just work hard and one day it's going to pay off, right? And that was my whole psychology, my whole mindset. The problem is when I'm saying one day it'll be worth it, I never knew what worth it was. I never knew what one day was. And I never had a plan or a strategy to be able to actually move beyond just the day-to-day of working my backside off every single day. And so I stayed in that mode for probably a solid, I would say, 8 to 9 odd years. Burnt myself out a couple of times, lost relationships, wasn't being effective. My health was suffering, wound up in hospital. I really just, it was stupid now that I look back at it. But that was the whole mindset thing that I was kind of grown up with. So for me, I had to rewire what success and what I wanted my life to be about. And it was only when, and this is why I get passionate talking about this, because I don't want other people to have to get to the point of hitting rock bottom where they have to lose everything before they get to the point of going, oh crap, that situation, that strategy wasn't working. I need to start creating a brand new strategy in my life, right? And so that was probably one of the biggest ones. The other big lesson that I got taught I got taught, I got this, reading a lot of books like, Tim Ferriss, 4 Hour Work Week, some of my mentors early on. I kept hearing the same thing over and over again, is do what you do best and outsource the rest. And that was a little catch cry that I took on. And I thought, this is great. I love this. I'm going to do what I love. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to speak. I'm going to teach. I'm going to train, because that's my passion. It's what I love. It's what I'm best at. And that's all I'm going to do. And you know what? Someone else can take care of everything else. And I wasn't running a business. I was pretending. And so I was up there doing the things I love, speaking, teaching, training, but I was never in control of my own business. I wasn't in control of my own leads. I wasn't in control of my own marketing. I wasn't in control of my own finances. I tried to outsource everything, and it came back and bit me on the backside big time, because I was not running a business. I was pretending to be a superstar. And at the same time, I wasn't actually in control of my business that I was actually running. In control of my wealth business, sure. But so the same way I'm talking about, hey, business owners, you got to run this wealth business. Well, I was doing the other thing. I was running a wealth business, but I wasn't running my actual business, right? And I got my business kind of taken away from me, so to speak. And when I mean that, like all the leads, all the customers, everything, I wasn't in control of it, to charge it. And, again, it came back and hit me on the backside big time. And, I lost it. And so to me, I guess those big lessons was that I really had to kind of redefine this whole idea of what success and lifestyle is and how I want my life to be, and start working that and apply the principle of leverage. So it's not just based on me. And I really had to focus on how am I going to be in control of every single aspect of my business, so that I have a sustainable system which is going to be able to grow.
Those are a couple of powerful awarenesses that you had. When you talked about you're really passionate about helping people avoid hitting that rock bottom.
Yeah.
I oftentimes will talk about how we each have our own individual rock bottom on a variety of different subjects. And often we can feel that we're out of alignment with ourselves, but we ignore it. We get really good at distracting ourselves, pushing it away, pushing it away, pushing it away. And we think, because the ego is great like that, right? We think that it's effective until everything just starts to spiral down. And that's that rock bottom that we're talking about. And when I say that everybody has their own individual rock bottom, and it does vary from one subject to the next, that's all based on that subconscious conditioning. So if you had conditioning that said, well, I can't ever have $0 in the bank and $100,000 in debt, you'd never let yourself go there. Completely. Right? Somebody else's rock bottom might be completely different, and that'll be the catalyst that's going to kick their ass into gear to make some changes.
Yeah.
But it's so fascinating how we allow ourselves to take that slide, that downward slide, and hit our rock bottom. And that's the moment, that's the catalyzing moment where it just kind of breaks everything open. It's like we have to do a whole bunch of inner work, and sometimes there's a deep healing process that needs to take place depending on the extreme, rock bottom scenario. But it really is a catalyst for some type of huge transformation. And a lot of people don't realize that you can start to recondition yourself without hitting the rock bottom.
Completely.
Most people are just too afraid of their unresolved, unaddressed conditioning, the things they believe, the things they expect, the things they've been told, the things they don't even understand. Like, why the hell do I think that about that? They don't even challenge it. And that's what gets us in those precarious situations where we have to have the rock bottom moment just so we can pull our head out of our ass and make some really, really important changes. Because the desire was always there. The desire to have the thing that hitting the rock bottom finally got you to knock it off and like, go out and make some really, really significant, important changes within yourself. The desire was always there.
Yeah.
So hopefully for somebody listening right now, whether it's their money situation, their wealth situation, your future, your business, whatever it is, I know that there are people right now who they're on the down, they're sliding down. They're sliding down towards their rock bottom and they can feel it and they're not doing anything about it. Or they're telling themselves that they're doing something about it by reading a book or listening to this podcast or whatever it is. But
yeah.
You really do have to do the deeper work and start to make those changes, start to change your identity. Because if you don't start to change your identity, you'll never take the consistent actions to develop the new habits to create the circumstances that you really, truly want in your life.
Spot on. It's all about that foundation. Like I always remember this, that we never get our goals, we only get our standards, right? And that we hold ourselves to in life. And you're talking about the spiral that people get stuck in, and things they can feel it going down, but they're not just putting the peg in the ground with where they actually are, and they're allowing it. And I'm going to use this word intentionally. They're allowing it because at some point in our life we have to take total and unequivocal responsibility for exactly where we are in our world right now, right? No matter what's happened in the past, no matter what's happened, at some point, we've got to put that peg in the ground and go, do you know what? I am 100% responsible for exactly where I am, all the choices, every experience, everything, because until you take that stand in your life, in, I think any area, but money and business, whatever, until you take that stand in your life, then your life is subject to the external pressures and circumstances outside of your control. But at some point, we've got to go, do you know what? This is my world. This is my life. I'm going to take total responsibility for where I am right now, but very importantly, what I'm going to do next as well. Because when we can adopt that mindset of total responsibility, and all of a sudden we are in control, because your journey in any area of life, business, relationship, wealth, there's going to be lumps and bumps along the way. Anyone that says that like a wealth building journey is just going to be this smooth upward trajectory of skipping and rainbows and unicorns is an idiot. It's not true, right? There's going to be lumps and bumps along the way. And so shit's going to happen, which is outside of your control. And in those moments, it's in those moments of decision where we sit there and go, we can sit there and play victim and we can blame, or we can sit there and go, got it. My life, my decision, my control. What is a brand new decision that I'm going to make at this point in time? And duck and weave and move through those lumps and bumps of life. And I think that idea of self-responsibility is like a foundational belief system around every area of success in life. I think that's a really, really critical thing.
Absolutely. It truly is. That we could do an entire segment just on that.
Exactly.
I think that for most business owners that have gotten any traction in life and in business, they have, whether through learning from mentors, from books, or just from life experience, have developed an awareness of that concept. They get it to a certain extent.
Yeah, great.
But we do need to keep reminding ourselves, because even when you know it, you really, really know it. Like a lot of times I'll call my clients out. I'll say, who's the common denominator in those circumstances that you were just complaining about?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But we do have to be honest with ourselves about the areas that we're struggling with, because in many cases, we haven't owned up to our responsibility in that area of our life. Maybe we have in our relationships, or we have with our employees, or we have with whatever other thing. But those areas that we're still struggling with are usually areas where we have been avoiding, ignoring, repressing, trying to pretend that everything's okay. And we have not taken responsibility in those areas.
Yeah, totally. And so much in money, it's so much in personal wealth and investing. That's so much the case. Most people are, again, they're very reactionary around it. Money just something that exists in their life, but they haven't taken responsibility for where they are in their money life, where they want to go, and what they want their future to really look like, right? And until we put that peg in the ground and going, okay, my world, because freedom is that birthright. That's what I truly do believe. It's being taken away, and we have to take it back. And business owners have the opportunity to kind of create their freedom faster than any other normal employee in a job. And they have an opportunity to do that in a really, really rapid way if they want to, right? And so going into that personal wealth area of your life and going, you know what, not another moment, not another day, I'm in control of this. I'm not here to blame anyone else or do anything, or like now is a time where I actually have to get a plan and a strategy, how to actually grow my personal wealth to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to be able to live for myself, for my family, protect my business, and leave the legacy I want to leave on the planet as well. And that responsibility moment is a key decision, pivotal point in turning the wealth game in your life.
So good. So good. All right. So Todd, tell our listeners how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So I run a free Facebook group called the Wealth Dojo. And it's full of other investors, potentially just like, you listening in here right now, who want to be able to grow their wealth faster. And so in there, I have a lot of free resources. I run a lot of trainings in there. There's some mini courses in there. And it's a great way. So if you're sitting there in your world right now going, do you know what, this money area of my life, this wealth area, this investing area, I know I need to take it to the next level, but I'm just not sure how to start, then this is a beautiful place to come and actually get some foundational understanding and some foundational first steps to be able to take the next step in your investing and wealth creation world. And that's probably one of the most perfect places for people to be able to start and really take that first micro step towards kind of being able to grow their wealth. And so I'd love for people to come and be a part of that. We've got a few thousand people in there now, and a lot of really great stuff is shared and in there to be able to help people grow their portfolios.
Awesome. And if somebody wants to work with you one-on-one, that is a possibility as well, correct?
Yeah, correct. I run a program where I work with more high-performing employees and business owners and helping them transform their business profits into personal wealth is what I really focus on doing there. And so if anyone's interested in doing that and actually getting a proper plan around their money to be able to grow and scale their wealth, then feel free to send an email, todd@toddpolke.com, and I'm sure we'll share these in different ways, or send me a DM on Facebook, and let's chat and let's see if we're a fit to be able to work together for sure.
Awesome. This has been a really, really good conversation about money. Like you said,
we could have gone for a longer time. A lot longer,
I know. And it's really quite ironic if you think about it, right? Everybody's aspiring for more money. Well, maybe not everybody, but let's just talk about business owners. Most business owners are aspiring for more money. And yet it is such a taboo subject because of all of that subconscious conditioning that it's like, what is it? You're not supposed to talk about religion, politics, and money, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how sad is that this piece of our lives that is literally involved in every aspect of our life, food, housing, the vehicle you drive, the things that, the experiences for your children. I mean, everything in life involves money. And
pretending it's not important is just lying to yourself. Like, it's just letting your own bullshit get in the way. Like, pretending it's not important, you're just lying for sure.
So I love that we are trying to normalize the conversation a little bit, because it should be normalized. And that is a bit of a power play, and we don't need to get into that. But take people's power away when they're not even comfortable talking about such a fundamental aspect of their life. And so we do have to take our power back, and we do have to take a stand, and we have to deal with our inner stuff and break this cycle, not just for ourselves, but for our future generations.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. And, I'm talking a lot about this idea, especially right now with everything that's going on in the world, especially right now, right? This idea of creating financial sovereignty in our world, I think is absolutely critical. And I'll just be careful not to go into that. We could be talking for another hour, but like being in control of your financial world where you are protected, your family is protected, your business is protected, your future is protected, I think is so critical now. It's not a want. It's not a, oh, that'd be a nice to have. This is a must, right? This is a must to be in control of your financial future, because I agree it is a control play that we are not taught anything about this, and that it is shamed, and like it is this weird thing, and it is a power play, because it's one of the main mechanisms where control is applied to most people's lives. And I truly do know that. And you've got to make it as choice. Are you going to allow that control to happen to you, or are you going to be in control of your financial future? Because you have to make a choice and draw a line in the sand.
Great way to end this segment. Todd, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation.
I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been great.
And thank you to all of our listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do so. You don't want to miss any of this. And until next time, we'll see you in the next episode.